On Overdrive today, we check out the turbo petrol variant of the 6th generation Hyundai Verna and take a ride in the Vadodara-based e-scooter Mihos ahead of its launch. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Soini Dutt. Hyundai India had been teasing the 6th generation sleek-looking Verna for a while now, and we've finally taken a look at this car to find out whether the hype was all worth it. It also is a more safer sedan than before.
The last year or so has seen quite a bit of action in the mid-size sedan segment. Skoda and Volkswagen have stirred up the segment with the launch of the Slavia and the Virtus. Honda has silently kept the segment going with the no-nonsense City. And the Hyundai Verna, it's always been the flashy kid of the party. And now it's here in an all-new avatar. The Verna has always looked the most radical car in its segment, like it or not, and the new one follows in that tradition. The turbo variant can be identified with the obvious badges, of course, but you also get an additional vent below the bonnet, a black cabin and matching black wheels as well. You get all 4 disc brakes too, but for some reason only the front brake calipers are red. Irrespective of the variant, the new Verna looks futuristic and still has some retro cues dialed in its styling. The Hyundai Staria-inspired light bar at the front reminds me of Kit from Knight Rider. That said, when you look at the complexity of the rear with those beautiful low-set parametric taillights, or the origami-like creases on the side profile with the large wheels and broad tires filling up the wheel arches so nicely, the front end does look a bit off. The new Verna uses a completely new platform, says Hyundai. That said, the nose, it looks sharply raked, very much like a hatchback, and I think that is where the front end proportions look a bit ungainly. The sharper nose gives it a marginally better aerodynamic efficiency of 0.30 CD versus the outgoing model's 0.31 CD. And to that effect, even the Hyundai logo now moves from the grille to the top of the bonnet. It sits flush and it's also wafer thin. This is also the lowest position I've ever seen for a headlamp on a sedan. It's quite low, and I think a lot of oncoming traffic, other road users are going to appreciate this position because it's likely to not dazzle them the way SUVs and crossovers do. And to that effect, this car also gets an auto high beam assist, which essentially will automatically switch to lower beams the moment it detects oncoming traffic. This is a part of the level 2 ADAS functions that the new Verna comes with. But unlike the Honda City's sensing ADAS technology, which only uses a camera, this one has a camera and a radar system. Over-engineered for safety? Well, I think it was high time. To that effect, the new Verna chassis uses 30% high-strength steels and 42% advanced high-strength steels. And new 3D and infrared scanning techniques are used to ensure that the body and the chassis are devoid of any imperfections. The chassis also has thicker members in the floor and around the central sections of the passenger cell. The Verna standard safety features now include 6 airbags, disc brakes on all wheels for the turbo variant, electronic stability control, vehicle stability management, hill assist control, and a high-line tire pressure monitoring system. And you also get plenty more boot space. At 528 litres, it is more spacious than the Slavia or the Virtus's boot, and has a low loading lip and a wider aperture. I think of all the cars that you have in the segment, the Verna definitely feels the most premium in terms of not just the layout, but also in terms of the design, also in terms of the materials used. Now, you do get soft touch materials in some of the areas, some of the common touch points. You also get this stitching, something that will help it take on the cabin of the Honda City. You get a 10.25-inch infotainment screen, and in typical Hyundai manner, it is very slick to operate, very easy to operate, very intuitive in terms of its layout as well. What you get here is another 10.25-inch layout. What you get are 2 displays, one for the speedometer, one for the tachometer, and then you get one central MID, a full color MID again, that gives you all the other additional information that you need. Now, people are going to be on the fence about this particular panel. Now, what I think about it is, this panel essentially lets you toggle using this switch between the AC controls and the infotainment controls. Compared to the other Hyundai cars, All the infotainment switches are now a part of this panel. It's a touch panel, and because you can toggle between the two, it sort of reduced the switchgear clutter, which I think is very good news. Ventilated seats has always been the Verna's thing. Now Hyundai's upped the game a little bit more. They've also given you heated function for the seating, especially today in this weather. It has actually come in handy. You get 3 levels of adjustment for both, and that I think is a good feature to have. You get a wireless charging pad, but you still do not get wireless Apple CarPlay or wireless Android Auto. You still have to run a cable for it. But all new age phones are now using a USB-C connection. But if you were to connect using the USB-C port here, the Apple CarPlay doesn't work. You still need the older USB-A port, which in today's times, I don't know why they've still done that. Another thing that Hyundai used to do with all their cabins and which we really liked was the air purification system. Even the sub 4 meter venue gets it, but the new Verna doesn't. The Verna now enjoys the longest wheelbase in the category, more than even the Honda City, which up until now was the roomiest car in the segment. Look at the kind of knee room that I get. The foot space is brilliant too. Even the headroom is quite nice despite the receding fastback coupe-ish like roofline. So what they've done is actually scooped out more space here so that even 6-footers can get a decent amount of headroom. However, for that they've also sort of reclined the seat a little bit more, and that is why you usually seat in a more relaxed manner, and that is how you get a slightly more headroom as well. It's also the widest car in the segment, making for increased shoulder room. But with only 2 headrests, this seat is safe only for 2 adults and a kid. I even had a chance to be driven around for some time, and the rear seat comfort seems good for long distance journeys. What needs improvement though is the noise insulation of the cabin. It curbs the powertrain noises quite well, but noises from the road, tires and the debris are heard loud and clear, more so at the rear, just like the Honda City.
There's a lot more to talk about the new generation Hyundai Verna. It now comes with 2 engine options and also gets level 2 ADAS features. We'll talk more about that after this very short break. Welcome back. You're with us on Overdrive. The new generation Hyundai Verna does not come with a diesel option. In fact, it only comes with a 1.5-litre naturally aspirated petrol and a 1.5-litre turbo petrol unit. It also comes with level 2 ADAS features. Rohit has driven the 1.5-litre turbo variant. Here's his first impression.
You may feel that 160 horsepower is a bit too much. It might just make the city driving experience of this Verna, which is ideally a city car, a bit too unnerving or, a bit too unpleasant in maybe, stop and go traffic or in slow moving traffic. But honestly, if you choose the DCT, it's not too jerky, it's not too bad even for crowded city environments. Now, I've been driving in the city all morning. There has been a bit of traffic, and there are different driving modes which can actually help you enjoy your drive better. So using this little switch, you can toggle between the Eco, Normal and Sport modes. Normal is what I've found to be very nice. The Eco, it's a bit too dull for my liking. And Normal is where the DCT also performs quite well. It shifts up quite quickly, so in terms of fuel economy, it should be pretty decent. And when you're shifting to the highway, that's the way I did, you can either stick to normal or you can even shift to sport mode. It's raining pretty heavily as well. There was a curve in the road right now. My hands are barely on the steering just for safety's sake. The steering is moving on its own. The visibility conditions aren't too great, and still the ADAS is working as expected. This is the advantage of having a camera plus a radar. It's able to read the lane markings quite nicely even in these low visibility conditions, and it's able to maintain the lane properly. You also get adaptive cruise control, which out on the highway here is also working quite well even in these conditions. The cruise control is obviously the adaptive type. Now that you have ADAS level 2, you cannot turn off the adaptive bit, meaning that every time you engage cruise control, it will automatically adjust the speed of the vehicle or the set speed according to the vehicle in front of it. You can, however, make changes to the distance. You get 4 levels of adjustment for the distance, 1 being the least, 4 being the highest or the longest distance between yourself and the vehicle in front of you. You get 4 levels of adjustability. I am right now on distance level 3, which is safe for a highway speed of about 100 kilometers an hour. So does this car feel like a 160 horsepower car? Well, in a nutshell, it does.
The downside is, to a few people, there is not too much drama associated with it. And when I say no drama, there's not too much sound coming off the engine. It's a humble 4-cylinder engine. But for where it stands, the 1.5 turbo, it is pretty silent. The cabin is pretty silent. So no drama or no oral drama there. In terms of the acceleration, the DCT, the electronics, they ensure that they keep things tidy even under hard acceleration. You don't feel any unnerving torque steer. You don't feel any annoying torque steer when you're maybe coming off a bend and going a little early on the throttle. So the power is very nicely, in a very linear manner, laid down to the road. So that's another plus. Add to that a suspension that has been given a very nice supple tuning. Add to that a steering that has been very well tuned too. And well, you have a car that feels really nice. It feels very luxury car-like, very premium in that sense.
With sport mode engaged, the Verna claims to sprint from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 8.1 seconds. And even in the wet, our test car could put power down cleanly without the electronics kicking in and ruining the fun.
The ground clearance of this car is between 165 to 170 millimeters. They aren't giving us an exact figure. So that's sort of comparable to the competition. But you also have a longer wheelbase on this. So on maybe taller speed humps, you have to be a little careful. You don't want to brush that underbelly often. On the turbo variant, you also get rear disc brakes, so the braking overall is quite nice. The feel of the brake pedal is nice and progressive. It's very confident. It's not too grabby despite having 4 disc brakes, and that's a feeling that I like. What I also like is the engine braking assistance that you get from the DCT. It's actually quite good. Even if you are in normal mode, the way it downshifts when you're braking, it's actually quite nice. Nothing gets too jerky. So the overall tuning of the brakes plus the gearbox is something that I'm really impressed with.
We didn't get a chance to drive the manuals, but this engine isn't as rev happy as the Honda City, and the power seems to taper off beyond 5000 RPM. The refinement levels are comparable though. Should you take manual control of the IVT or the CVT, there are 8 ratios to choose from, but the automatic mode works best. Both these engines are geared to cruise comfortably at 100 km an hour with the engine speeds barely touching 2000 RPM. But Hyundai's petrol engines are known to be thirsty, and we expect the 1.5 to return between 14 to 16 km to a litre, and the 1.5 turbo to manage 16 to 17 km per litre overall.
The high-speed stability is actually quite good. So whether you're choosing the turbo or the 1.5, the top-end variants are equipped with the 205 section tires. So overall high-speed stability with this kind of suspension setup, the broad tires, etc., is actually quite good. When you're inside the cabin, it's a far nicer experience than what you see from the outside, because with this low-end instrumentation and this slim and A-pillar, the visibility, the aperture that you get is excellent. Beautiful visibility. You get good cornering visibility as well. The wing mirrors, they're not too big. They are nice and sharp. They're a little wide, but not too large. There is a bit of wind noise coming off them, but they give you a good visibility in your mirrors as well. And you'll also see these exclamation marks on both the mirrors. That's basically the blind spot assist. So every time someone is in your blind spot, like there is a car right now, and it immediately tells me that there is someone in the blind spot. Of course, in India, there's always someone in your blind spot. So those lights keep flashing quite often. They work overtime. But yeah, the overall visibility is quite good.
Though the new Verna is a nice car to drive or be driven in, there's no doubt that many buyers in this price bracket will still gravitate towards the more practical options like the Creta. But those who still love sedans have a great alternative in the new Verna when compared to some already well-established options like the Slavia, the Virtus and the City. Hyundai hopes to double the sales of the Verna with the new model, targeting around 3,000 units a month. So is it game over for the competition? Not really. They all have their strengths. But the Verna is finally a spacious car now and has advanced safety features too, and continues to have superior creature comforts and class-leading power figures as well, all of which could help it surpass the competition.
Well, I'm very curious to know what you think of the styling of the Hyundai Verna. Do you think it's very futuristic and you like it, or do you think it's a little over the top? Also, do you think the engine options are good enough to battle it out with the Honda City, Slavia or even the Virtus? Let us know in the comment section on our YouTube channel. We'll take a very quick break here on the show. But coming up on the other side, we'll tell you all about Joy Bike's new electric scooter, the Mihos. Welcome back here with us on Overdrive. Now, just a couple of months ago at the Auto Expo, we saw a couple of new electric scooter manufacturers enter into the mix and offer new electric scooters, and one that really caught our eye was Vadodara-based Joy e-bike with their scooter, the Mihos. It offers 102 km of riding range. It's not really production ready yet, but we rode it to find out just what this scooter is all about.
This is the Mihos from Joy e-bike, the Vadodara-based manufacturer that's been around in the country for a little over 3 years now. This model in particular, the flagship model, was launched at the Auto Expo just a couple of months ago, and we're out here to test ride its pre-production model.
The Joy e-bike Mihos exudes some neat retro styling cues. It's got very old school Vespa Lambretta vibes, with its round headlamp, the curvy and simplistic panels all around, the chrome mirrors, and that spacious bench seat. However, elements like the TFT display, the 12-inch wheels, and LED lighting lend a touch of modernity to it all. The wheels come wrapped with 90x90 tires, which offer a good amount of grip considering this vehicle's stature. Joy e-bike is offering a decent list of features with the Mihos electric scooter. These include a simple 4.3-inch color TFT screen that displays information like range, speed, state of charge, ride modes, and more. It also gets Bluetooth connectivity along with turn-by-turn navigation. Other features include a USB charger socket and an LED illuminated underseat storage space.
Alright, so although the Mihos has a decent amount of features, well, one of the USPs of this particular scooter has to be the construction of its plastic panels. So, yep, the company have told us that this scooter in particular, well, its panels are built of PDCPD, which stands for polydicyclopentadiene. Well, basically, it's a relatively strong compound of plastic, and it's built to take a good amount of pounding.
Now moving on to what gets this Mihos moving. Powering the e-scooter is a 1.5 kilowatt hub-mounted electric motor that produces around 250 Nm of peak torque. The scooter gets a 2.96 kilowatt NMC battery pack that is claimed to offer an IDC range of 130 kilometers on a single charge, of course, and a 0 to 100% charging time of 5 hours. It gets 3 riding modes, Eco, Sport and Hyper, which alters throttle response and the speed limitation according to the mode selected. On Eco mode, energy is consumed sparingly and efficiently, just as it would on any other electric scooter. The top speed out here is limited to 35 kmph, and the scooter is said to be capable of running a maximum of 102 kilometers on a single charge out in the real world, say the company. But that claim is yet to be verified. Sports mode is marginally livelier, and the scooter here can achieve a top speed of 45 kilometers per hour. However, hyper mode, well, that's where I'd usually keep this one at, because the top speed goes up to an indicator 63 kilometers per hour, and to be honest, this is the only mode where the scooter doesn't feel downright boring or lethargic to ride. But as you'd expect, in this mode the only trade-off is that range is almost halved. The Mihos doesn't come with the conventional reverse function like other electric scooters out there, and what it gets is a reversed assist feature. So when you waddle back when you're astride the scooter, well, the motor will gently assist you on your way.
So it's a very easy, the Mihos, a nice and easy scooter to manage, nice and light, flickable. But yes, it's a pre-production model, and then in terms of handling, as you can see, it does scrape a bit. So it doesn't take a lot to get the side stand scraping, unfortunately, so definitely some work to be done there. In terms of ride, well, nice and plush ride. Not too good in terms of performance though, because I am in hyper mode right now. And as you can see, I'll just take a step back to around 10 kph, give it the beans. And as you can see, it's not all that eager to accelerate. But in terms of handling, yes, it does feel quite nice.
Performance of the Mihos Electric isn't something to really write home about. It takes some fair bit of time and effort for the scooter to build momentum up to that 63 km per hour mark in hyper mode. But what's better though is the way the scooter handles, because it impresses fairly so in that department. The chassis is nice and stiff, and the scooter feels nice and light at the bars, which allows you to change direction easily. It tips into corners without much effort, and you can stick to your line very comfortably and nicely. As far as ride quality goes, well, the go-kart track that we tested the scooter on was in good shape, so the jury's still out on that one. However, the brakes at both ends could offer a better bite and be less noisy in their way of function. The Mihos scooters that were issued to us on this test ride were said to be hand-built pre-production models, and in terms of build quality, the scoots we rode had certain quality issues with inconsistent panel gaps, shabbily finished parts, and even some low-end switchgear. Now, the company have said that the final production versions of these scooters will have these issues sorted out before they are rolled out into the market come April 2023. But that we'll believe once we actually see it. Overall, the Mihos scooter is a valiant step in the right direction for the company that is shifting focus from rural areas to metros with its first in-house designed e-scooter.
If you had 1 lakh rupees to invest in a electric scooter of this sort, well, you might want to hold off to that check for a couple of more months, at least till the proper production model comes out, because then we'll have a better idea and a more complete, comprehensive understanding of what the scooter is out on the actual road out there in the city.
That's it then from us on this week's edition of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through Facebook, Twitter as well as YouTube, and you can follow our latest updates on Instagram. We'll see you next week. Until then, goodbye. Many thanks for watching.